It's Today and Eve, Wednesday, March 4th, 2020. Wednesday. Did I say that? All right, let's look at what's going on out there in EVE Online. Pull up our .lan, which shows a lot of activity for EVE Online. And we will start with statistics. Looks like in the last 24 hours, most active region has been Delve, in first place with 717 ships destroyed, 436 of those. Escape pods destroyed. Smother was 603 ships destroyed with 412 pods destroyed. And in the third position is Veil is Silent. 550 ships destroyed, 339 of those pods destroyed. Empire region, Forge has 1,855 ships destroyed, 689 pods destroyed. In second position, the Citadel, 1,560 ships destroyed, 419 pods. And in third place, Lone Trek, 1,624 ships destroyed, 239 pods. You'll notice the ratio of pods being destroyed in 0-0 Nullsec space is a lot higher because it's lawless. In Empire space, you don't destroy pods because you get a real bad stigma from the local authorities who consider you a criminal outlaw, and so your standing drops a lot quicker if you actually pod people. They haven't really carried that kind of mechanic out into more of the game, so that people could differentiate themselves as a bad actor and a really bad actor, an outlaw actor. It used to be that when you potted someone, it was a real insult. Now it's just kind of standard. So it's lost a little bit of meaning. Most violent systems, let's take a look here. So in the last 3 hours, so this is recent activity, Smother's HL TAC has 132 ships destroyed. Let's take a quick look since this is recent history. So we'll just grab this HL TAC. This is Red Alliance territory. Take it to Z Killboard, pop in the system, HL TAC, and check out who the fighters are here. You see a ton of fraternity pods destroyed. Now, when you see that many pods destroyed, so Legion of X Death, which is part of Red Alliance, I believe, or I think they have another name called Fire Coalition. Red Alliance is a part of that. Anyway, these are Russian players. Legion of X Death killing a ton of pods from Serenity. When you see that, that's a little bit suspect. I wonder what's going on here. God, even page 2 has a ton. And the ships that they are killing, these must be T1 destroyers. Let's have a look. Yeah, Thrasher fleet, so very inexpensive. Yeah, okay, so that's it for this. Looks like a Thrasher fleet, and it was destroyed by X Legion. I'm going to tap into Related to see if this was all one big brawl. Yeah, and it was Fraternity versus Legion of X Death mostly. It's a confirmed destroyer fleet. I don't know what the objective was. I don't see an objective structure up here somewhere. Ah, okay. So when you see ships like a Rorqual involved, normally you don't bring a Rorqual into a fight. So if a Rorqual is on a kill mail or a battle report like this one, it means that it was the objection or the objective. So somebody tackled it, tried to kill it, and the Rorqual called for friends, and the friends defended it against the fleet that was trying to kill it. In this case, it looks like it was Fraternity destroyers hunting in Smother, and they found something in HL TAC, tackled it, tried to kill it, and got whelped against the defense fleet. it looks like. But it's such a complete whelp. There's something weird here. Whelp just means, whelp, lost another fleet. So it's destroyed. But they killed nothing on the X-Death side of things. And then Fraternity was completely erased, which makes me think, I don't think there were any survivors. And you see this when people don't want to fly home by themselves because it's a waste of time. And the ship is a T1 destroyer, super cheap. So this could have been fight to the end, or it could have been a self-destruct. In any case, it's a little bit unusual. So, but that's what's going on in Smother. Let's go back to our statistics. Okay, so that was the most violent system in the last 3 hours, so that just happened. LXQ2 in Ethereum Reach had 332 ships destroyed in the last 24 hours. 238 of those were pods. Sorry, 238 pods were destroyed from those ships. And HL TAC, which we just investigated, that is also registers as number 2 on the last 24 hours. So not a lot going on if that's the biggest destruction as far as ships in the last 24 hours. Again, your most violent systems in Nullsec, the usual, Tama, Kanaka in first and second place, respectively. And number 3 is higher. I haven't seen that on there in a while, but higher is in Iridia. And Iridia is a very, very violent region for Nullsec, low security space. So in the last 3 hours, the only thing to speak of is this brawl that happened in Tama, or it could be a gate camp, who knows, because that's usually what happens there. 104 ships destroyed. Again, with a very low ratio of pods destroyed, 23 out of 104. I told you earlier that's because pods are destroyed, much more likely to get destroyed in Nullsec space. I do want to investigate Tama because this just happened also a short time ago, 3 hours. So let's go back to see Killboard and check this one out. Tama's always active, so this is not surprising. But it's an awful lot of ships. I just want to see if they're related to one another. You can start to see by looking at the corporation flags that a few people match up. But then you see overall a diversity of different corporations or alliances that are involved. And this tells me that it's really probably just a gate camp. Because you don't see trading, wholesale trading, where you might have 10 of one corporation destroyed. And here you see like it's a complete mixture. And they're both on the destroying side and the losing side. So that just shows you an exchange. And usually those exchanges happen over time, especially in small ships. Rather than one fleet getting whelped or destroyed pretty convincingly and the other ship being able to logistically repair their ships and not get destroyed. And those kinds of fights will look rather one-sided. That's not what was happening there. So Tama is just active in general, probably gate camps inside the gate. So when you enter the system, you get jumped, killed. And sometimes the gate campers will be the victims. In the last 24 hours, Tama is at the top position with 525 ships destroyed. Number 2 is Flossiswin in Metropolis. Metropolis has, I think it's underrated as far as Nullsec goes. It has some pretty treacherous areas, especially with Ivanka. The Ivanka Trading Company, I think, lives in Metropolis. They hunt bigger things, but they might also just take targets of opportunity. In the third spot for Nullsec is Prism, one of my favorites. Prism is also the home, I believe, of... Well, Prism is a pretty important system in Black Rise. Let's have a look at where it is on the map, just so you can visualize it. So Black Rise is, by the way, incredibly exciting area. It's very it has a reputation for a lot of PvP. It's really where Galente and Kaldari fight a lot, but also a lot of people stalk this place. And by stalk, I mean they go hunting in it. It's very close to the Jita trade hub, so people can get equipment that they need and continue to fight. So it's easy access to equipment and easy access to find fights. And Black Rise has kind of risen up as one of the key low-sec areas to fight in. And in the middle of this system, in the middle of this region is Prism. And I think Prism's jump range is probably why. Let's look at jump range here for super capitals. Well, capital ships will do, but they almost have the same jump range. Yeah, so if you look, it's got really good access to tribute. I think that is why it is known. Let's see where in tribute it has access to. No kidding, just one system. That is surprising to me. Maybe with capitals and jump ranges the way they are now. But Prism is a place where you can see it's a bit of a pipe. Yeah, it's right next to Asakai. It's a system next to Asakai. But it's also where a lot of stuff was stored after the invasion of North, where the Imperium was removed or evicted. I think they put a lot of stuff in Prism. I think that's also an area where, if I'm not mistaken, Snuff used to have a lot of equipment, or where they would hang around. Let's look at the makeup of Prism. It's also a jump point between the north and the east. Sorry, the west. It's the west. So whenever Northern Coalition would travel to Fountain, for instance, Prism would be one of the stops. And I think it could be that... Yeah, I think it has to do with being a midpoint when you're on your way to one side or the other of the map. Okay, so that's how I remember Prism, but I think Prism's known to a lot of people for a lot of reasons. So anyway, Prism, there was a fight there. In the last 24 hours, 160 ships roughly have been destroyed there. Okay, most violent systems in high-sec are your usual. Jita tops the spot with 471 ships destroyed in the last 24 hours. Those are trade hub systems, so not much to see there. Most active systems in Nullsec. Well, this is for NPCing. Morning, Victor.
Good morning.
Your volume is off. I think it's low. Most active systems for NPCing. Remember, we have this tug of war now that's happening between Oasa and Delve. And Delve belongs to the Imperium. Oasa belongs to Fraternity, or Winter Coalition. And those two places are going gangbusters. And then recently, you saw the Disintegration of Dead Coalition, which also has some Chinese groups like Dracaris or Ranger Regiment, and those have moved south into probably Quarius. We can check that out. So what you're seeing now, at least in the 24-hour cycle of NPC kills, is you're seeing Quarius start to show up on the map. Quarius is a part of Delve. They're basically the same area. So now you have Oasa, Delve, and a bit of Quarius, basically NPCing like crazy. But let's take a look. Yeah, this has Quarius has 1,844 NPC kills, 44,000 actually in the last 44,000? Yeah, 44,000 in the last 24 hours. It's a lot. Well, all structures are owned by Goon Swarm, so it's not telling who's in the space doing the actual ratting. Okay, but anyway, so look for those three systems. It's an interesting pattern. There's a competition to rat. It's not a competition, but you can just see where the ratting is really heavy, and it's in the most stable of empires, with fraternity being one of those now. Okay, let's look at the corporation movements. In the last 7 days, fraternities picked up 27 systems. Siberian Squad, part of Dead Coalition, has lost 13. That's all from the Northern War that just happened. United Federation of Conifers picked up 8 systems. That is Conifers, yes. They picked up 8 systems. The Skeleton Crew picked up 8 systems. They come and go, this Skeleton Crew. They have, yeah. They usually follow or are allied with Northern Coalition and the Northern Powers, so that's interesting. Reverberation picked up 2, lost 5 systems. I believe they're in the Tribute area. Let's have a look. Yeah, Vale of the Silent Tribute. Those are neighboring regions in the north. Those are part of the collection of non-aligned states that are fighting each other. And Range Regimen and Triple V, those are 2 different groups, obviously, but they're on 2 different sides. Ranger Regimen lost 6 systems. That's still remnants of deserting the north. And Triple V, who was one of the victorious groups in the north, has lost 7 systems. That means they're abandoning old territory and moving into new territory. So you'll see their systems grow. Alliance movements, as far as populations in the last 7 days, Test Alliance lost 1,000 accounts. Normally that's a staggering number, but not to a group as big as Test Alliance. If you look, that didn't, their population at 16,000 just looks like a flat line, even though they dropped 1,000. Most of the time when you see a drop like that, it is people being cleaned out for being inactive. So also you see here that Triple V, the group I just talked about, is a Chinese group that worked with Pandemic Legion, Northern Coalition, PandaFam, basically. Picked up 490 players. Let's have a quick look at where they're from. What I'm looking for here is to see if they switch sides over from somewhere else. So we'll see when they joined. The latest to join, here's where I want to be. Yeah, so the Chaos Army Corporation joined with 284 members. And that happened on the 1st, a few days ago. Then you have a couple late arrivals here. I would say anything from February 18th up to the 27th. You have a few. Yeah, I don't know where these guys are from. Let's look at Chaos and look at their alliance history. And their PIBC, Hard Knocks Associates. These guys look like renters, not to put a stigma on them, but they're part of FCON at one point. They joined in Panic at one point. Hard Knocks Associates, that's a renting group for Hard Knocks. And then they were in PIBC, but that's mostly recent, isn't it? No. They're in PIBC. I think those are renters for Fraternity, and now they moved into Triple V. So no surprises there. They are not switching sides. They have anyway, there's no surprises there. That's all very reasonable. Red Alliance picked up 220. That's pretty good for Red Alliance these days. Red Alliance was a historic giant, but they didn't grow like the other alliances of their age. Some alliances, for instance, a Goon Swarm or a Northern Coalition or a Pandemic Legion, these groups that were around when Red Alliance was around. Actually, Red Alliance predates all those groups, but those groups all grew to multiple thousands. Like Northern Coalition, I think, has at least 3,000 members. Goon Swarm has nearly 30,000 members. Different growth strategy, obviously. But Red Alliance just didn't grow that big, and if it did, it shrunk back down to size. It's now at 1,700, 1,800 members. So 222 is actually a substantial increase for them. All right, those are the corporation movements. Looks like typical days in EVE Online. The Northern War is winding down. People are settling in their new areas. There is some rumors about, not rumors, but we've been told that Northern Coalition will deploy somewhere. They seem to be deploying to Fountain, which would be interesting. Fountain is the home of the Initiative, and NC and the Initiative have had at least two or three conflicts over the last few years. So it wouldn't surprise me. I think NCC's Initiative is big enough to enjoy destroying. An Initiative has the backing of the Imperium should it come to a bigger fight. So that's kind of the relationship there. And FCs look for meaty opponents that they can get some what's called content out of them, get some fights out of them, get some entertainment out of them. So that's what they look for. And Initiative delivers pretty well because they fight back. They don't hide, but they also are big enough to make it worthwhile for the move. So we'll see if NC Dot actually attacks Initiative in Fountain. Okay, moving on real quick to timer board just to see if anything pops up. You're still seeing a lot of, as far as iHubs, infrastructure hubs is concerned, you have Deckline, multiple systems in Deckline. Timers are going to be popping up if they weren't already popped up yesterday. Maybe this weekend. FMB TAC, K5F TAC, XCF TAC. This is all a cleanup effort. And here's an important station, Yao, they call it. That's YA0 TAC XJ. That was a home system for the Imperium when they lived up in the north. So that is the center point of that entire northern region, usually. And it's definitely the center point of that region, Deckline, as far as where players settle. It has good strategic range. So their iHub there is going down in about 21 hours. Again, this is a cleanup. It's not going to be contested probably, but they are going to take over this area. That is, PandaFam is taking over this area. What for? Still unclear, but I think they're going to move in Chinese renters and some of the Chinese groups that help them out. There's a lot of brokering that goes on after a war on who gets what, right? You got to divide it up among the powers that helped you out. And there's some interesting stuff going on there, but a lot of it's behind diplomatic closed doors, so I can't really talk about it. And some stuff I don't hear about, so but there is some interesting stuff there. Okay, last bit of news. The CSM is still in Iceland as of 22 hours ago. There's a picture released with them working around a table in what appears to be a hot, sweaty room. No, actually, they all look relaxed and sitting there getting some information from Exuki, the wormhole representative. He's probably giving them a presentation on some of the stuff they need to understand about how they tinker with wormholes. And it looks like the room's half filled by CCP developers and half filled by the representatives. You can see the representatives are the ones dressed in colors. This is kind of funny. And the CCPers are the ones basically dressed in black. That's not on purpose as much as I think living in Iceland, you just start dressing in black. All right, so we'll find out what happened at that conference later on when they release the minutes after they've been redacted so that people don't have their entertainment spoiled. But that is FanFest, so we'll see what's up. Okay. That's all we have today. I think. Well, let's look here. There's EVE Online 3 Days Summit. Gobbins is delivering an introduction to Risk versus... Oh, cool. Gobbins made a presentation. That's Gobbins standing there. You can see the back of his head. He's an Italian guy. I love the way he talks. He's very personable. That's the word.
Somebody said EVE Russia was just scheduled.
Canceled, you mean?
Was it canceled? Maybe that's what
It was if it was anything, it was canceled, not scheduled, because it had already been scheduled. It's for June.
I don't know. There's news on it.
Where are you reading that?
Eve. It was Eve bot in SEC Lounge. I think you're in SEC Lounge. You can go look.
Oh, so okay. Let me grab that headline then, because that's probably an automatic feed. I'll grab that link. What channel is that in?
It's called Eve bot or Eve News.
Newsbot?
News bot. Yeah.
Eve Russia Moscow 2020. It doesn't have a link. So yeah, I don't know what that is. Could take a look at
Well, is it on Meetup? Of course, it might be in Russia. I don't know. I don't know if that's relevant. Sorry to.
It's all right. It just doesn't have a link, so I don't know if it's news. I expect that it will be. Yeah, I expect that all conferences are going to be stopped. I was watching a video on now these conferences are being stopped because of virus fears and spreading the virus fears. And I was looking at this presentation showed on a graph. Maybe I could bring that up so you guys could see it. It was kind of interesting. It's from the World Health Organization. Coronavirus. Let's see.
Yeah, this will pretty much kill Meetup for 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the site.
No, smaller ones, they're more regional. I don't think you need to worry about the virus unless it's in your area.
Well, I mean, they just had an Amazon employee in a major distribution center test bot.
Oh, really?
It's just a matter of time, right? I mean, just resign yourself to it and don't ban.
Yeah, I don't know. Where is that? God, this is a big site. COVID-19. Well, anyway, couldn't find it, but it showed on a graph like the trend lines of contagion and stuff like that. And the reality is, we're not even started with this virus. It's got a long way to go, and it hitting you right now is a very rare thing. So I wouldn't worry about it, but I would start right now to pick up good habits, which is the only thing that you
Wash your hands
can do.
and dry them on a clean towel. Don't dry them on your pants. Don't dry them on your clothes. Dry them on a clean towel. That's pretty important when you wash your hands.
There's 3 things to washing hands. I don't think I've said this. As one is there's the soap, which is a disinfectant or a microbial killer or whatever. It doesn't have to be bacteria killing. But the soap itself will do some damage to whatever's on your hands. But really what you want is that rinse effect. You want to make sure the water rinses it away. And then you want the wipe effect. That's why you would use either a disposable towel or a clean towel. You want to wipe stuff off your hands as well. And the reason is that stuff collects on your hands, all parts of your hands, whenever you touch things, interact with things. And you have... your hands are a little bit sticky. That's what that little oil is, that little film. So you do pick up stuff. I'm not sure you pick up viruses because it's sticky, but it does penetrate onto your skin. It's when you touch your face, because your face apparently is very porous. At least I think that's what I've heard. So anytime you're touching your face and messing with your face, you're basically accumulating stuff that is on surfaces. So viruses that are on surfaces. And so you can imagine then if you're touching a bunch of stuff where people have coughed, spittle or whatever, and spread viruses, not just coronavirus, but any virus. And then you're touching stuff with your hands, and then you touch your face, you're bringing them closer to your bloodstream. And so that's pretty much how that works. So if somebody is around you coughing all the time, they're contaminating your area. You're touching things, and then you contaminate yourself, and then you get sick. Why is that important? Because really, there's nothing they can do for you if you catch this virus. You essentially have to wait it out, and your lungs fill up with fluid, basically. And you have to, in the worst cases, not all cases, and not even most cases, but in some cases, if you are having shortness of breath, you really have to be ventilated and helped through the process until the body heals itself, inflammation goes down, and then liquid gets expelled. And at that point, you can start to recover. That's what pneumonia is. So it's not unusual. People have pneumonia. And the thing is, pneumonia is usually caused by a bacteria, I believe. And so you can get antibiotics for pneumonia, and that will help you recover quicker because it kills the actual bacteria. But this is a viral pneumonia, and they can't really accelerate that. They can't slow it down. They can't speed it up. You're just in it, and you have to be helped if you're too weak to get through it on your own. And that's kind of how all this works.
That's a lot of really sound, solid, conventional, good advice. There's I just want to say, in this whole mania thing that's going to happen, if it's not happening already, there's going to be a lot of conspiracy theories and wild news and fake news and all this stuff, and you just need to be prepared for it and take everything with a grain of salt. If it seems crazy, it probably is crazy.
Yeah. And you don't have to think about it all the time. You just have to start the habits. That's all we're trying to do is start the habits of, here it is. How does it, let's see, here's a coronavirus video I was watching earlier. Whoops. No. Yes, this is what I wanted to show people, is this graph that shows just how prevalent coronavirus is. It's spreading very fast. It's on track to travel the same speed through the populations, and I'm talking hundreds of millions of people, that the swine flu did. And it's interesting just how, let me just turn down the music here. There's a couple things, and this is what I was trying to explain. People think this is a big hoax, and you can treat it as a hoax, and you may be fine, but I think it behooves you to create good antiviral habits now, because this is probably going to infect a lot of people like the swine flu did. And you can see the coronavirus just starts exploding with, probably because they're testing and trying to figure out how many people actually have it. And we haven't even tested in America very strongly, so these cases are going to grow in America. But what is happening is that this is not killing a ton of people all at once. It's not super lethal, but it's lethal enough to really make a huge impact, kind of like the swine flu did. But you'll see that this will get dwarfed by the swine flu once that comes up. So that's just the Wuhan outbreak. But if you want to compare it to other viruses, other outbreaks, let's call them epidemics, like SARS in 2003 or swine flu in 2009, that's the one that scared the heck out of me, or Ebola in 2014, you can see that swine flu is just affecting millions of people. But Ebola and any H1Z1 or H1N1 virus, like I think the swine flu was H1N1, they're very deadly. I mean, they kill, their death rate's a lot higher than this coronavirus.
So it's the nature of viruses is the faster they spread, then the faster they chew up the food that they need to spread. So they're not as deadly because they disappear quicker in the population.
Yeah.
More people get it, but like Ebola spreads slower, but it eats your system. I mean, it's nasty.
Well, so what you're seeing is the coronavirus just explode in the first 30 days, whereas the Ebola and SARS, those are moving in a very slow rate. Part of it is the lethality. But here comes the swine flu as an example. By day 40, the swine flu just starts exponentially exploding. But that, if you look at it, is the same thing we're seeing today. And this is why the coronavirus concerns me, is just how fast it spreads. I'll probably be fine. My son will probably be fine. My wife will probably be fine. This is not something I'm worried about personally for me, but I am doing my bit not to infect an elderly person like my father-in-law. That's why it's important. It's not just about you. It's also about the person next to you. Yeah, you can see the swine flu once it gets out into the wild, which has the same infection pattern as the coronavirus. This COVID-19 is... COVID-19 is actually the disease you get. It's like, that's AIDS, right? But what was it? But is it HIV? But HIV is the virus. So COVID-19 actually has a virus that creates the disease COVID-19. So, but we call it COVID-19. But yeah, just the infection rate is unbelievable. It's explosive and exponential. But here is, yeah, the Spanish flu is something that wiped out. I think it wiped out. Look at the Spanish flu in comparison to even the swine flu. It wiped out 50 million people, 50 to 70 million people in 2000. Well, actually, 1910, 1920. Oh, 1918 is when it happened. The Spanish flu and SARS. The Spanish flu and swine flu had the same makeup, I think. So right now, the virus that we're looking at that's causing all these conferences to close and everything, it's what's going on is they're prudently trying to slow down the spread of this thing so that they can catch up to the cases that are out there and isolate those and hopefully slow it down even further. Why would you want to slow down a virus? Because you need to try to figure out how you can blunt its deadly force. So you want time to make a vaccine and to get that out to the population, and that's a year to 2 years away. So you don't want it to spread too fast. But you can see that stuff like stroke and heart disease and cancer kill many, 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 many more people than this thing, or even the flu kills. But here's a neat thing. That is all the ways that you could die, basically, and that's the coronavirus. So it really is like very, very rare that you'll contract it. And and you can see, like, you're running around through this confetti, and the dot only comes up once every few seconds, so it should come back at some point. So there it goes again. Yeah, the point is, very, very rare that you'll get coronavirus at this point. But look at what happened in 1918. Now remember, those blue dots represent death. They don't represent being sick. So what's the lesson here? It's good not to panic now. It's good to think about preventative measures now, so you can develop the habits that can protect you later, not just for yourself, but for everybody around you, including strangers. And so that's the only reason I bring it up as kind of a public service. But the way it affects EVE players, and the reason we can continue to talk about this, is that it's closed down our conferences, and we'll probably continue to do so, I think, for 2 years? What do you think?
Yeah, 2.5 years probably.
Yeah. Oh, there's another thing I'm just reminded here. Masks won't do anything for you. Usually they're not worn right. And even if they were, they're not going to stop infection. They're not going to stop infection because
a mask is more beneficial if you have the illness and you wear one so that you don't spread it, instead of you not contracting it to begin with.
Exactly. It's equivalent to holding up a napkin when you cough, which is good practice. But a mask isn't going to protect you. Walking around with a mask on is not a means of protection. So it's a false sense of security. If you have a cold, sure, wear a mask. That way you don't spread it to other people. You should do that with colds and flus and everything else. That is just good. That is good thinking and generous thinking. But protecting yourself, no, it's not going to happen. You know, there's something else that's happened. If you ever walk into a grocery store and they have those wipes so you can wipe down the cart, I noticed that people will always grab a wipe, and before they touch the cart, they wipe it down. And then they use the cart, and then when they're done, they leave the cart behind. And the next person comes and they grab a thing and they wipe it down, and then they do the same thing over and over again. But nobody, or very few people, use the cart and then wipe it down after they finished using it.
Yeah.
And so it's like you really only care about yourself. You don't really consider yourself a vector, but you want to defend yourself against other vectors. And that kind of thinking is not necessarily communal thinking. And I think health is actually very communal. So coronavirus is spreading very fast, faster than... I just missed what they said. Sorry, let me just read this last. Here's the takeaways, which I want to get to you, and then we'll wrap up. Coronavirus is spreading very fast, faster than most other epidemics in their first 2 months. This is why it's alarming. Fortunately, it's not anywhere near as fatal as Ebola and MERS. Coronavirus is outpacing the swine flu. And you see that yellow line going up? That's the swine flu. And that is terrifying because that infected, I think it was, wow, 1.77 thousand deaths. That seems like very few, actually. Oh, this is actually before it finishes. It kills a lot more than that by the end. I think if I go back, I can see how many it killed. Yeah. Swine flu killed 300,000 people. So I know the flu kills a lot of people too. But every little point percentage represents like not only a lot more deaths, but a lot more really sick people.
Well, here's the thing: civilization is not going to end, right? I mean, so a lot of people die. It's like it's like 3 times the amount of the flu, right? But we have the flu every year. We have multiple flus every year, right? The thing is, this just spreads very quickly. So, and there's going to be mania and panic, but you shouldn't panic because civilization is not going to end. We got this.
Yeah. Well, stay safe. It says, wash your hands. Don't go to school or work if you're sick, because when you're sick and you're feeling sick, like you feel the symptoms, you either have the fatigue or you're coughing or whatever, that means you have a high viral load, which means you're expelling a lot per capita of the virus. You're more contagious. You're always contagious when you get it to when you, maybe in this case, I think they've even seen that you could test positive for it even after you've gotten over the symptoms. But you're really contagious when you're coughing and expelling. So that's when you know not to go to work, because that's when you're most infectious, I think. Don't touch your face. Don't touch your face holes with dirty hands. And that's a funny way to say that. Holes are your nostrils, your mouth, and your eyes, because you have thin membranes there, and so it's easy to get the viruses can get to you a little bit quicker. The thing about viruses is they're not small like on your hands. They're microscopic. Even some bacteria molecules will have their own virus. That's how small it is. So it is a crazy little creature that is incredibly primitive.
Wasn't the first. The theory is, if you're not I don't know, if you don't think God created us out of nothing, then that lightning hit a pool of the right chemicals and created viruses. Viruses were the
Were they? I don't know. I actually don't.
is that right? Maybe that's not right. Do viruses require a host? I'm not sure.
Um, I don't know if they. I think they do require a host because they die through exposure of being outside of a body or whatever. But they might. I think they might require a host.
Somebody's saying in a
And if they do, um, if they're too lethal to the host, then they die out too, which is why Ebola spreads, I think, slower. People die before they are able to be a contagion, you know. Also, medical care is a big difference too. If you get good medical care quickly, your chances of survival go way up, but that's just normal. If you have a respirator helping you breathe and giving you oxygen, you're going to be a lot better off than being in a humid jungle with no help at all. So it's just a whole different thing. All right. Well, enough of talking about viruses. Again, we're just telling you because it's a real thing. That's why conferences are closing. I expect Eve Russia will probably not happen. Again, it's more regional, so it's possible that it may go on. There are other conferences like Eve North that's put on by players. They are still open. They're gonna have their conference anyway. So that one is in Niagara Falls. You can look for a conference in New Orleans that is still going on. So these conferences are still going on. They're put on by players, though. And Vegas is still going on, as far as I know. Anyway, that's it. That's all we have time for today. We will see you next time on TIS.